Welcome to the Love Lab Podcast, a safe and fun place to get real and learn about sex. Whether you're a man or woman, single or couple, this is the show for you. I am your host, Kevin Anthony, and I am here to guide you to go from good to amazing in the bedroom and your relationships. All right, welcome back to the Love Lab Podcast. This is episode 307, and it is titled, How to Understand Women and How They Choose to Have Sex. I think that this will be very interesting, at least to the male listeners on this show, because so many men look at women as this enigma, like they can't figure them out. They don't understand why they do what they do. And when it comes to sex, they can't understand, why is she in the mood now? Why is she not in the mood? Why is she never in the mood? Why is she, whatever it is, it just boggles their mind. They can't figure it out. So I have a guest on the show today who is going to help us gain some insight into the female mind. We're going to talk about, how do women think? What is it that they need? Right? And how can we help them as men? So there's a lot to talk about in this episode. So definitely stay tuned. And, I would say also that, my episodes are never just for men or just for women. If you're a woman listening to this, I would suggest that you stick around also, because my guest today works a lot with women, and there's a lot of insight that she can bring to help you, because one of the things I learn is that sometimes women don't actually know why they do what they do or how to shift behavioral patterns, right? So there's likely to be a lot of helpful information in here for women as well. Okay, before we do that though, a short word from my sponsor, Power and Mastery 3.0. Power and Mastery 3.0 is the latest version of the popular men's sexual mastery course. If you are struggling with erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, or simply want to increase your skills in the bedroom, then Power and Mastery is for you. Join the exclusive club of men who have taken their sexual performance into their own hands and become sexual masters. Mastering your sexuality is a key component to becoming the man she has always dreamt of and craves. Don't leave your sexual performance up to chance or the throw of the dice. Become a sexual master today by going to powerandmastery.com and joining the exclusive club of men who have taken their destiny into their own hands. That is powerandmastery.com. Okay. My guest today is Magday Kay, and she is an intimacy expert, Tantra teacher, and conscious relating coach. Author and founder of the School of Intimacy, she is on a mission to help people access their deepest desires and ability to create transformative intimacy in their lives. Welcome to the show, Magda.
Kevin, thank you for having me. I love the introduction. I want to jump right in. There's already things you mentioned just in the intro that I'm like, yes, this is what we have to talk about. So I am beyond excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I am excited too. I think this is going to be a fascinating conversation. Let's dive right in. My first question is, one of the biggest complaints from men is that they don't understand women. I'm wondering if you can give some examples of common things that men either don't understand or maybe they're misunderstandings, things that they think are one way but maybe aren't.
So thank you for this question. If I may, just before I answer this, so there's something I always like to say. Women are not a mystery, because this is very popular, especially in tantric community, where we're meant to just adore and worship the feminine for what it is. And you probably see a lot of this beautiful posts where it just says like, don't try to understand her, just love her, appreciate. And I say, BS, because it's such an easy excuse to just not do the work to try to understand her. So I look at it differently. I don't think we're such a mystery, as in, I don't think my girlfriends are a mystery. I'm never surprised why my girlfriend does something. Why? Because I understand how women work. So we're not a mystery if you don't want us to be. We move differently than men. And so you have to understand we are different, but just because we're different, like, don't kind of, in a way, to me, it's a bit of an excuse to be lazy. Oh, I'm not going to make an effort to find out how she's different than me. I'm just going to assume she's different and she doesn't make sense. So we do make sense. So as an example, I always talk about nature because women are very similar to nature. So, I live in Europe where we have all 4 seasons. I understand in different parts of the world, you may not necessarily have 4 seasons, but let's say, in Europe, you don't ever get shocked that there is winter. It's not like, December or November comes and you're like, oh, wait, why is it cold out of a sudden? It's like, that there are cycles, that nature moves in a certain rhythm. And it's the same with women. We are cyclical beings. So this is the main difference. If you understand our cycles, you're going to understand us. Again, it's not rocket science. Okay, I want to start with that.
Yeah, can I just pause you for a moment?
Yeah.
Because I completely agree with that. And that's kind of why I said it in the beginning. There's this notion that women are an enigma. But the reality is everything you said is absolutely true, and they are cyclical. And there are just some basic ways in which they operate and some basic needs that they have. And if you can just understand those things, suddenly they're not an enigma anymore.
Exactly. I honestly think it's pretty lazy. It's easy to say, oh, I just don't understand her. Just make a little bit of an effort and she will start making sense. Like you will know how to, I'm going to use the word operate her. And then you'll see that it's very easy to manage women. So I'm going to start with one thing that I feel it's very common for couples. And this is when a woman becomes kind of chaotic, emotional, she becomes like a storm. And usually men get extremely confused. What is this all about? Why is she making a scene? Either a silent treatment or now she's yelling. And men get really like it's overwhelming. It's scary. So usually men, like you just pull back. You're like, okay, I don't want to deal with this. What you don't understand, and I know this is simplification, but pretty much anytime your woman starts behaving out of character, she's getting mean or attacking, it's because she feels like you don't love her. So the best thing you can ever do in moments when she's like doing things that you don't like, come close to her, look at her, and just say, I love you.
Okay.
You can embrace her. Yes.
I gotta pause you again. I apologize. I hope I don't interrupt you too many times.
Oh, but you're more than welcome to do that.
But I really want to expand on a lot of these things because I completely agree with what you just said. And here's what a lot of men will say. Well, of course she knows I love her. I told her that whenever, and you're like, wait.
10 years ago.
Right, exactly the point. And that's kind of what I wanted to highlight here is if you're listening to this as a man and you're like, well, of course she knows I love her. No. This is one of those things that you just need to understand about women. Yeah, she knows it, but she needs to hear it over and over again.
Yes, and so I don't want to oversimplify this because I understand that women can also get upset. So please excuse me, but I sometimes feel that we don't have to complicate things too much. So as a rule, a relationship is like everything to a woman. Like taking care of relationships, it's kind of what we are best at and what our life is about. And whether it's a relationship with my partner, with my child, with my girlfriend, relationships is the area of mastery for women. And so it's, for men, it's not. Usually it's, for many men, it's a bit like a, checkbox. Like I got to have a partner, maybe I got to have a family. Okay, I'm married, done. I can now focus on my work and my mission. So I always tell men this. See how you look at your work. So let's say that you got this job offer and you're having interesting tasks at the beginning and and you're excited. Are you still going to be happy if you stay doing the exact same things in 3 years or even in 6 months? Like you have the need to really explore your talents and potential when it comes to your mission and how you contribute and how you work and how you make money. Well, this is true for women as well. It's really important. It's a form of like fulfilling our nature to really create the best relationships in our life. And so one of the reasons why we need this feedback is because, from a man that, yes, you love us and yes, you're still attracted to us, is because we need this feedback to know that the relationship we're building is actually good. It's working. Sort of like when you do your work, you're expecting a good salary and you're expecting a promotion after some time, right? It's your feedback that you're doing something right, that you're good at it. And it's same for women. We need this. And because relationships are so important for us, because women are naturally very giving, very nurturing, very loving, when we lose the relationship, it's really painful. It's like a big shock. Just like men feel when you lose your job and now you're not making money, like you start questioning so much about yourself. So just like you as a man, you will be looking for, any potential threats to your job and your security with money. Women are naturally scanning the environment for any possible threats that they may lose the relationship. So yes, we need extra validation that you love us. But it's just something for us to make sure that we are safe so that our nervous system can be balanced. So just keep saying these little things, send us messages, work with 5 love languages. Like it may not seem natural to men to do it, but as a consequence, you're getting a more balanced woman, because now, if I don't have to stress and worry whether you still love me, then I get to be myself. I get to be with you. I get to nurture you and love you.
Yeah, absolutely. So well said. It is really about her feeling safe and trusting in the relationship. And the place that I see far too many men go down the wrong road is they tend to view relationship as a set it and forget it. It's
Yes,
it's
yes.
exactly what you just said. It's like, okay, I married her, we got the kids, the family, like that part's done. Now I'm over here focusing on whatever else, right? And that is absolutely not how relationships work. Even if you were in a relationship with another man and you were both like masculine and you could take the feminine component out of the relationship, it still wouldn't work, guys. I'm sorry. A relationship is a living creature in and of itself, and everything, if you're not giving it time, attention, love, nutrients, is going to wither and die.
Exactly. So it's called the law of entropy. And basically anything in nature is designed to eventually fall apart. Like our human body, we're designed to get old and eventually die. If you leave, any piece of food in the forest, eventually it will disappear. So that's how nature works. And the only way that we can like combat or limit the law of entropy is by adding energy into the system. So for example, if we want to stay young and healthy for longer, we got to make sure we eat properly, we drink enough water, we sleep, etc., etc. And it's the same with the relationship. Relationships are naturally falling apart. Basically, from the moment the honeymoon period ends, they're designed to start falling apart. And this is why most of relationships fail, because we don't inject enough energy to keep it alive. And I always say the same that you just said. It's like relationships are living organisms. They need water, they need air, they need care. Like no relationship, and not even intimate, like you said, is not going to last unless you do that.
Absolutely. So, what are some other potentially common examples of things that maybe men don't understand or misunderstand? So, we have the fact that she needs validation, right? She needs to be able to feel safe that you do love her in the context of relationship. Are there any other common ones?
Yes. So it's very closely linked to the conversation of safety. So when it comes specifically to sex is a very different experience for men and women. And again, yes, this is a generalization. We understand, people are unique. And I like anytime I speak, I take it for granted that we understand we're simplifying things. But then people like online, they get offended. I'm like, we understand that every human being is unique. This is just kind of like a general rule. So as a general rule, sex is actually quite available and easy for men. Now, from the tantric perspective, the way we explain it is that our sex center, that's your root chakra. And if you just look at your genitals, they tell you how the energy moves. So for a male body, the energy goes outwards, right? And you're thrusting, you're ejaculating, all of it goes outwards. So that's the masculine flow, that's the giving. For a female body, it's the opposite, right? The vagina goes in, I receive you, I pull you in. And in the receptive state, this is where we are vulnerable, right? It's basically, you can think of, if you have your own apartment, if you open the door, then anyone can come in. right? A thief can come in, anyone can come in. So anytime you're in the space of receiving, you become vulnerable. And so sex is a vulnerable experience for women, and it's not for men. So something I actually tell men if they want to understand this concept a bit better is get anal massage or just any anal stimulation, like proper stimulation. Notice what it's like when you're being penetrated, and that gives you an idea of what it feels like for a woman to be penetrated. So you probably wouldn't enjoy having anything, in your ass without any foreplay. So well, that's the same for women.
And if you do that, men, which is a great recommendation, know that it is only a fraction of the vulnerability that it takes for a woman to spread her legs to you. So it gives you a taste, gives you an idea, but just imagine that probably times 100 on her end, right?
Yes, and so I'll say from here, um, what I would love for men to take is that yes, women need more time. We need more foreplay. And I always say oral sex is not foreplay. It's maybe foreplay for a man. For women, it's already sex. And unfortunately, and there are a lot of my videos on YouTube which talk specifically to men, because like you mentioned, I work with women and couples as well. But when I have content specifically for men, I very often get those comments that like, oh, who has time for that? It's too much effort. Oh yes, it's always about her. And and it really upsets me that men think of it this way, because again, if sex is not vulnerable for you, then you don't understand why she needs all of that. But if you don't give her enough preparation and the whole process of helping her open up and feel safe with you, you're actually traumatizing her. And now this goes to women. So I really hope that we have women listening, because we also have to really honor the fact that we need to be warmed up, because we've been raised in a society that still looks at sex from a male perspective. So we think like, oh, 15 minutes, it's like that's so long for foreplay. Well, not for females. We actually need way more. And before you start warming up our body, you need to warm up our mind and our heart. It has to all be aligned. And so as women, we need to communicate this to men, and we need to really explain to them why it's important and what exactly we need. Because too often women just like, oh no, either they're convinced that they don't need this because they're not as in tune with their body, or because we're too shy to ask for it because we don't want to be difficult. So both men and women need to understand that this is essential. This is essential. And if I may just add one more thing here, because men will say like, oh, it's like, but I like quickies, then what about those? And I say, well, listen, if you know how to keep your woman warmed up throughout the day, you can have a quickie. Yeah, exactly. But if there's no interaction with her and you never planted the idea of sex in her mind throughout the day, then you're back home and you're expecting her to be ready even in 30 minutes. Like, good luck, but it's not going to happen. So keep her warm throughout the day. And trust me, if you want a quickie when you're back home, yeah, she'll be ready.
Absolutely. This is something that my wife and I used to teach a lot. We termed it the constant state of arousal. So doing little things all throughout the day to stoke that fire so that you're not going from zero turned on to trying to get into turned on enough for sex. Maybe you're going from on a scale of 1 to 10, you're going from maybe a 5 and you only have to go to an 8 in order to get her ready for sex, right? As
Exactly.
opposed to starting off at 0. So yeah, that is absolutely huge. And I was laughing over here when you're talking about the comments on YouTube because I get those all the time on my videos. I hear stuff like that too, like, who has time for this? One of the things I'm constantly trying to get men to understand is that sex is a journey. It's not a destination. It's not about, okay, I plug in and I go straight for the ejaculation. You got to think of it as an entire experience, right? And all of that stuff, the foreplay, the oral sex, the actual penetrate, that's all part of the experience. And you really should view it as like, I mean, for lack of a better word, like experience really is the best word that I can think of. It's like you're going to set aside however much time you have, and it could be an hour, it could be 2 hours, it could be 3 hours, and you're just going to experience each other in all those different ways. And so if you can view it from that point of view, instead of thinking of, well, this is all about, having an orgasm or ejaculation, it completely shifts your
Mm.
mindset around it. And then suddenly you're like, oh, oh yeah. And with this whole like who has time thing, how much time did you waste on social media today? How
Yeah.
much time did you waste watching stupid TV shows, right? Or movies or playing video games, right? So this whole idea that there's never enough time or who has the time or who would want to spend that time
Mm.
all just goes out the window. This is one of the best things that you could do with your time is to nurture the relationship and have great sex with your partner. Like in my mind, that's first. Everything else is a distant second.
So I love that you're mentioning this, Kevin. I couldn't agree more. And I think the shift that men should really go for is that all the foreplay and everything we're discussing, I think so often men look at it as like, oh, this is the hard work. It's like I'm doing it for her. Well, I'll tell you this. For many years, I offered lingam massages to men, which is a massage of full body, and then it focuses on massaging the genitals. And in all of these years, I haven't met a single man who didn't enjoy taking it slow and like having a long experience. Those massages would be between 2 to 3 hours. So, in my opinion, what men really need to look at is that long experience, that 1 hour, it's for you just as much as it is for her. Like you said, it's about the experience, the whole thing. And so if men start telling me that like, oh, but there is no fun in it, I just want to come, I'm like, darling, I feel like you have some exploration to do. It's like you don't even understand what sex truly is. Because if
Yes.
you need that ejaculation to feel pleasure, it actually shows that your body is extremely contracted and very stressed, and you're not allowing your body to receive. But once you relax, this is when you can experience more. So some of the things that I recommend to men, if they want to learn to slow down and give more and take longer, is to actually put themselves in situations where they get to receive something more gentle. So for all the men who have a partner, what you can do is you can ask for your woman to give you a sensual, very relaxing massage, and like say give it like half an hour. And that's the only goal. If later you want to go into lovemaking, you can, but take that half an hour to just receive her touch and tell me afterwards if you hated the experience or if you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and that's great advice. If as a man you are not enjoying the exploration of her body, if the penetration and the, off to the races towards your ejaculation is the only part that's actually fun to you, then it's exactly what you just said. You fundamentally do not understand what sex is. You certainly don't understand what good sex is, right? So every bit of the experience should be fun for you. If you're hearing the words, oh, it's not fun, you are really doing something wrong. Her body, like, John Mayer wrote it perfectly in his song, right? Your body is a wonderland. It's a wonderland. Listen to that song. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's kind of a corny pop song. But listen to what he's trying to say in that song as he describes her lips and her nose and all these other parts of her body, how much he actually loves them and loves exploring them.
Yes.
There's lines in that song about how we're going to set aside all this amount of time. We've got this whole room. We've got all this stuff, right? That's creating that experience, and that's really what it should be. Now, granted, you might not have 3 hours every time, but you can at least create smaller experiences like that, and every bit of it should be fun. From the, undressing her to the touching her body in every way. Like, one of the things I tell people, if you want to be really, really good in bed, if you want to be a man and you want a woman to be like, wow, he was fucking amazing, you have to love what you're doing. You can't just go through the motions. When you're like, oh, I got to do foreplay, so that means that I watched this video and it told me I got to touch her here and I got to do 3 strokes here and then I got to do, like, if that's the way you're approaching it, it doesn't matter if you master the technique. She's never going to go, he's great in bed. because she's not
Absolutely.
feeling you. She's not feeling you engaged and loving it and like that energy that's created between the two of you. So you should be loving every moment of that experience.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of the wheel of consent, but one of the really awesome practices there, which I also do with my clients and like recommend to all my couples, is when you touch your partner for your own pleasure. And that's exactly what you just said, Kevin, right? It's like you should enjoy undressing your partner and touching their body. And that goes both ways, like men, women, everyone. So it's not just about the female body. Like it's not just the female body that's a wonderland. It's a human body. And again, if I speak back to the massages that I used to offer, I remember like before I would even touch my clients, I just looked at their body and I was at like a genuine, honest that this is how this body looks like. And I would take a moment and I would look at this naked body lying on the bed. And honestly, like my state would be, for example, I would look at a mole and I'm like, wow, the universe decided to put this mole right here. At every hair, look at this hair. Like there's no such a thing as like, oh, this body is attractive or not attractive, fat or skin, none of the judgment. In fact, in Tantra, we call it transfiguration, right? So when you transfigure something, maybe daily, mundane into divine, and so actually practicing looking at our beloved's body through that angle, I think it's so powerful. So yeah, totally like, set some, time, I don't know, let's say 15 minutes or something, and just touch your partner's body for your own pleasure. Like try to really enjoy that. And then like everything changes from there.
Yeah, absolutely. There is there's one word of caution I want to say with that, which is that one thing that my wife and I noticed over the years of coaching men is that there is a subsection of men who will tell you, "I'm such a giver. I'm such a giver. I'm always giving. I'm always giving." But the reality is all they're actually doing is taking because they don't actually care at all about her pleasure and it's all just about receiving them for themselves. So I just want to caution men, everything that you said is absolutely true and I think you should do that. Just be careful not to go to the far extreme and have it be all about just you and what you get out of it.
So
Just
I've
a
been like controlling myself not to jump in. Okay, Kevin, I'm gonna tell you something. If I ever hear a man say that he's a giver and that for him it's all about her pleasure, I just don't believe you because it's never true. It's a
Mhm.
form of manipulation. You're not going to convince me that you care about her pleasure only and that you're such a giver. No, you have a persona that you're trying to be. You're wearing a mask that I'm this great lover, but it's not for her. It's for you to feel like you're a great lover. Like we have to balance giving and receiving. If you're only like receiving, you're very selfish, doesn't feel good. But like you cannot pretend that you're giving, giving, giving. That's a manipulative strategy to get validation that you're a great lover so that she later can tell all the other women, oh, he was such so considerate, so amazing. You're trying to get something through that. So if any man listening, if you ever find yourself saying, I'm a giver, I care more about her pleasure, stop and challenge those beliefs. They're not true. And for all the women listening, if ever a man says this, again, don't believe this. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. That's it. This is
Yeah,
what I
no,
what I wanted to add here.
I'm actually really glad that you've basically had the exact same experience because, you know, my wife had a similar path from what I know about you and how many men she worked with and what she did. And this was something that she would see. And then it was something I started seeing too as I was working with more men. And this idea that, oh, I'm such a giver. They were always the worst, most problem clients ever. Always, hands down, enough so
Yes.
that we could actually definitively state there's a pattern here with those particular individuals. So I'm happy to hear. Well, I'm not happy to hear that you've seen it because that means there's a bunch of men out there that are not doing what they're supposed to be
Mm.
doing. However, it's always good to have validation that these things actually are real and to hear it from other experts in the field is always great. Okay, We could probably keep going on and on about things that men misunderstand or don't understand about women. But believe it or not, we're already halfway through the show, which I boggles my mind. I've asked you one of 9 questions. So just quickly, and we don't have to go too deep into it. My next question was, where do you think what are some of the reasons for these misunderstandings or this not understanding? Like, where do you think that comes from?
Okay, if you want a very quick answer, the patriarchy. Period.
Okay, that's good. Unfortunately, that is such a loaded term. We have no choice now but to unpack that at least a little bit
Yeah.
and maybe expand.
Well, look. So if you look at the history of the last centuries, like it's very clear the way the society operated. So ever since we got the concept of property, right, it changed the dynamic between men and women. So this is when women were expected to be virgins, and like practically speaking, a woman became one of the things that a man owned. And we know very well that like even our grandparents or our grandmas were not allowed to do a lot of things. Like the husband were making most of the decisions. And so for centuries, women were not allowed to say something, right? Women were not equal to men. So who cared that an experience for a woman was different? For example, sex was never ever about a woman experiencing an orgasm. It was about her having kids. So even here, if you think about this, and a woman doesn't need an orgasm to get pregnant, so we didn't have to worry about this, right? So for so long, there was never a discussion that women are different than men. And look, if you want a different example, just to illustrate it, because again, I know a lot of men kind of attack this. No, it's not like this, etc., etc. So I don't know if you know this, but for like many centuries, we thought that kids are just little adults. And we treated kids the same way we would be treating adults. And it was only, I believe, the 18th century, I think Rousseau was doing research on this, or like some, published some papers. It's only about like 2 centuries ago that the idea was introduced that children don't think the same way as adults. And you're probably, if you didn't know this, you're probably like, what? Can you imagine? Like, imagine right now, if you have a child or any child in your life, imagine thinking that this child makes decisions the same way that adults do. It's ridiculous. But that's how it used to be. And it's the same with women, because we assume that women think exactly the same way as men. So it's still shocking that we actually don't. We're very, very different. And so this transition is still happening.
Yeah, when it comes to children, they have learned now through research that up until about age 6 or 7, not only do they think differently from us, their brain is actually operating in a different reality than ours. Like, so the whole imaginary friends thing, that's a real thing for them because they're literally operating in another reality. So yeah, there's a lot that we took for granted and didn't know. And so I appreciate you sharing that history. And one of the things that kind of popped into my mind as I was thinking about that, like I was listening to you and thinking about what you were saying, is that did a disservice to women, obviously, right? But it also did a disservice to men because
Oh, absolutely.
look
Yeah.
where we are now, right? Look where we are now with our complete misunderstanding of each other and all the problems that creates.
And unfortunately, yes. Well, I'm a big proponent that the shift has to come through a collaboration and a cooperation, not by fighting each other. And unfortunately, I still see so much of men going against men, like men going against women, women going against men, instead of trying to solve it together. But it takes both, because women, we are still learning to open up and speak about things. Also, we, like you said in the intro, we are learning about our bodies. There's so much that women don't know, and they don't know that they don't want, that they don't know this. And women are not very open to learning. Like very often, especially if a man wants to give any sexual advice to a woman, you'll hear like, oh, you're mansplaining. How can you know anything about my body? I'm like, well, if he's trained, chances are he knows actually more. So as women, we need to be more open. We need to understand we're so disconnected from our sexuality. We need to do the work to reconnect. And then we need to do the work to start speaking up. And then men need to do the work of asking questions and listening. And don't assume you know, because you don't. Like, just ask questions, be curious. And to get us through that, this is the only possible scenario of us actually changing these dynamics.
Yes, very well said. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're a little bit more than halfway through the show, which means I need to take a break. But when we come back from the break, there's a couple of key points I really want to make sure we talk about before we run out of time. I want to make sure that we talk about why couples lose their intimacy in relationships, how they end up becoming roommates, and how we can potentially fix that. I also want to talk about how women decide to have sex. Like, what is the thought process, and what do they need, right? Because that's something that sort of boggles men's minds a lot of the time. And then, of course, I would love to talk a little bit about the Power Center framework, although that revolves a lot around women. That's like a framework for women, but I think men can learn a lot from understanding that framework as well. So those are the things I want to make sure that we talk about before this show is over. In the meantime, we got to take a short break. Men, are you tired of falling short both in the bedroom and in your relationship? Do you want your woman to respect you and crave your cock? Do you want to be the man she secretly brags about to all of her friends? What if you could become this man? What if you could not only master your masculine sexuality, but also be the dream man who shows up for his woman in all the ways she desires? What if you could become so irresistible that she becomes addicted to you? If you are ready to become that man, then check out my Become the Man of Your and Her Dreams coaching program by going to kevinandceline.com/go/man of her dreams. Don't worry about the link. It's in the description. Just go click on it. That's kevinandceline.com/go/man of her dreams. Okay. So let's dive in a little bit to this idea of, because you mentioned earlier in the show, and it was just in sort of in passing in speaking about something else, but you said after that honeymoon period is over, right? So many couples kind of lose that intimacy after that honeymoon period is over, and they end up being more like, roommates or co-parents or whatever it is. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about why does that tend to happen, and what are some things that couples can do to shift that?
Yes, absolutely. And to be fair, unless you consciously choose to keep intimacy and passion alive, you're going to lose it. I don't know a single couple who still has the sparks present in the relationship if they're not doing anything to keep those sparks happening. So if you think of it, it's actually kind of simple. So the moment we move in together, especially, and even more if you have kids, just even for anyone listening, if you are home right now, just look at yourself. How are you dressed? How are you sitting? What's your energy? Like, if you think about it, when we're home, this is when we usually put some, sweats on. Sometimes we have this old shirt with like some stains on them because, we wouldn't wear this when we go out, but I'm home, I can do it. So that's one thing. The second thing is that living together, there are house chores that you have to take care of. So the realities of being at home is the exact opposite of what sexy is. Literally, it's the opposite. Even if you just look, anyone, guys, just look around your apartment right now. Does it look like a sex room, like a sexual oasis? Like, what in your space would trigger any thoughts about having sex? So many of us have like things thrown on bed. Like, you won't even think of having sex there. Our bedrooms, you may have this epileptic machine for whatever running, your computer, TV, there's all of these things. But we have no like cues for being sexy. So my advice is, first of all, if possible, your bedroom should be mostly about sex. So you should design it in a way that feels sensual, that stimulates you, puts you in the mood. I'm very visual, so my personal preference is to have mirrors around, but that's just me. I would probably keep like different toys, that are visible, beautiful textures, materials, make sure it can be really dark. Some nice lights, maybe some scents and music. And also, I think another really awesome thing is to get a sexy photo shoot with your partner naked and then have these big, images printed on your walls. I think all of this is super fun. Now, I understand this may not be available. And so the second thing that I would recommend to every couple is take your relationship out of the house. So the house will be naturally pulling you into the role of a housemaid, again, the lazy person or the house chores. It's like all of the roles that are the opposite of sexual intimacy. So when you take your relationship out of the house, what I mean by this is you go on a date, and if you can, rent a hotel room to have sex, but you're only engaging in things that have to do with you as lovers. You don't talk about work, you don't talk about kids, you don't talk about any to-do list, none of that. You dress up, right? You want to make sure you look sexy, do whatever you need to do to put yourself in the mood, prepare yourself in whatever way you want, actually make an effort for those dates. And like that evening is just for that. And again, this may be an evening a week. I think ideally you would do one evening a week plus one weekend every month, if it's possible, like adjust it to your schedule. But I feel, we underestimate, or we just don't think about how our environment impacts us. And homes don't turn us into lovers. So change the environment. And if you just do it a few times, consistently, that's enough to keep that intimacy alive. You don't have to do it every day, but just do it a few times and you'll see like it will keep the sparks flying.
So, longtime listeners of the show will pretty much recognize all of the advice that you're giving, because this is stuff I talk about all the time. It's
because we're not inventing anything new. It works.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And again, I'm pointing that out not to be like, "Ha, look at me, I already knew that." I point that out to say exactly what you just said. This stuff works, right? And you're not just hearing it from me on this show, you're hearing it from other people as well, because it's I call it tried and true, time tested, like it just works. So if you don't like hearing it from me, maybe you like hearing it from somebody who's much better looking than I am. Also, by the way, I loved your description of the bedroom. You were describing a lot of what my bedroom looks like. My wife was also a huge proponent of like nothing goes in the bedroom. Like there's no TVs, there's no computers, there's no nothing. The bedroom is a sanctuary. And I felt the same way. It's one of the reasons why we got along so well. But yeah, absolutely. Your bedroom should be a sanctuary, a place that feels calm, relaxing, also a little sexy is great too. Definitely, we had our share of printed photos on the walls all around of her, of us, So yeah, absolutely. And then you're right that sometimes those things maybe aren't available. Maybe you've got kids and you can't really leave your toys laying around or have sexy pictures, whatever. Then just simply make time to go outside the house. That is excellent advice. There's a ton more I know that you could tell couples about how to rekindle that intimacy.
But I know we're short on time. Yes.
Right. And I really want to talk about...
I'm controlling myself.
I know. If I teased this on the show and we didn't get there, my listeners would be really pissed off. So we've got to go there. Let's talk about, how does a woman decide she wants to have sex with you? What goes through her mind? What does she need to make that decision?
So, really, this is about how humans make decisions. So we know that sometimes we're very logical about things, and we can also be impulsive. And if you go to any shop, you'll see exactly what I mean. Like I used to work for Procter & Gamble, and they actually do very in-depth research on how people behave in shops to know exactly what product goes where. And so notice that, on your eye level, you're going to have products that you want to go for right away. Up or down are products that require more logical thinking, so they're not as available. But right when you're ready to pay, there are all the little things that is just so easy to grab because that's impulsive decision making. It's the same here. So there will be moments when a woman will be looking at a man and analyzing a lot of variables, but there will be a time when she will be quite impulsive. Now, I don't want to talk about situations when she's, for example, been drinking or she's very emotional, which definitely cuts her ability to make logical decisions. I don't want to talk about this because I think these are different cases and we shouldn't be taking advantage of this. But absolutely around her ovulation, she's going to be more of like a horny animal that just is looking for a man full of testosterone. And this is not a logical decision. This is literally a physiological need, which I think men can easily relate to.
Yeah, we understand that one.
Exactly. So that really exists with women. And if you are in a relationship, by the way, it's really good to know her cycle so that when you know that she's ovulating, like you can be more direct with her, because chances are that she may feel uncomfortable and shy to just kind of jump on you. So if you know that that's the phase of her cycle, you can be more direct.
Yeah, and pro tip for the men out there, hopefully your woman is tracking her cycle and knows where she's at. And with technology today, she can share that app with you and all of that data right on your phone. So you don't have to guess. You don't even have to ask her. You can literally just open your phone and go, oh, I know where she's at in her cycle today. Pro tip.
That is very true. I will add one thing, that if she is on birth control, then she is not ovulating. Now, this is a whole conversation that we can spend another episode on, but unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of the pill. It unfortunately doesn't just eliminate the bleeding, it eliminates ovulation as well. So she doesn't have those animalistic urges to just, if I may say, to just fuck. Sorry, I don't know if this needs to be censored.
No, not at all. You can say whatever you want.
Awesome. So that happens. But in most cases, a woman does look at more things. So it's basically like it's a more complex decision for a woman. And you have to, again, understand what sex means to us. Like we said before about the element of safety. But also remember, for a woman, we're looking at the fact that you're probably lying to us because you want to get laid.
Sad but true in many cases.
Yes. And I can get pregnant. Again, depending if I'm, on the pill, etc., then this is not there. But for other women, this will be the case. So I am thinking about these things. I am thinking, are you just, do you just want to use me for sex? I am analyzing all of this. So this is where I don't want to give men power, because I don't want you to manipulate this and use it like against women, but she needs to trust you to have sex with you. And trust is about feeling safe. And you have to remember that safety can be both objective and subjective, but what really matters is the subjective safety. So it's not whether she's objectively safe with you, it's whether she feels safe with you. But again, here is when we have, all this manipulation, like men saying, I'm a giver. For me, her pleasure is more important. And it's all tactics to win her trust, but it's not true. So again, if anyone listening, you guys are looking for like, how can I trick her to trust me? Please don't do it. It's like you have no idea how much you're damaging a woman if you're playing her just to have sex. If you only want to hook up, please be honest. Trust me, a lot of women are up for this. You don't have to break a woman who doesn't want to hook up, just so that you can have your fun. Essentially, the best way to build trust with a woman is to make sure that you're in integrity and alignment, meaning what you think, what you say, what you feel, and what you do is the same. And this is really the only definition of safety and trust. So if you're not in alignment, then you're off, and either she will feel it or she will not feel it, but down the line, you're going to hurt her. So I'm talking here about like longer strategies, more about what kind of a man you are. But my invitation to all men is to be a man of integrity.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. It's like with all the really great things in life, there's no shortcut, right? So if what you wanted to hear in that answer was like, here's a couple quick things you can do to get her to have sex with you, You're in the wrong show, but you wouldn't even be here, honestly, if that was your mentality. Because if you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know we never give you just quick fixes and cheap tricks, right? This is all about how to become the best version of yourself and how to nurture and grow healthy relationships. So, uh, I think that advice is fantastic advice, even though it might take more time, even though it might be harder, because there are no shortcuts.
Absolutely. And if you try again, if you go for a shortcut, like she's gonna get hurt. She's gonna get hurt. And I would love for men to actually start care about this.
Yes, yes, yes. I would love for men to start caring about this too. And I think, there's obviously always that section of the population, there's the pickup artist scene, and there's always those people out there. I don't see them very much in my work, and maybe it's just because those types of people don't tend to gravitate towards me in my work. What I see mostly is just a lot of guys who are just clueless. They just don't know. They just never learned. And obviously, if they're coming to me, then they have an interest in wanting to learn. So, I'm happy to share this kind of information because I know that the people that generally tend to follow me are not the ones that are going to want to take it and exploit it. They're the ones that are like, oh, that's what I've been effing up this whole time, right?
So if you guys listening are really awesome people wanting to be better, let me give you a few very specific things, okay? So number one is don't hide your sexual interest in a woman. So this is not about saying, oh, I want to have sex with you, but don't pretend that you're just a friend. This is not nice. So don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm attracted to you, right? And you can say, listen, I think you're a very beautiful woman. Can I take you for coffee? No pressure. I just would love to spend some time together and get to know you, right? So this is perfect. But don't pretend that you're not interested, because then she will feel that something is off. She will not trust you. The second thing is ask open questions, like actually be interested in her. Say, hey, who are you? What do you do? What do you enjoy? Like ask questions, be actually interested in her as a human being. Then listen to her. Like nothing like gets to me in a good way. Like, I have a conversation with a guy. I'm like, wow, he remembers what I said when we like met a month ago. That's beautiful. So pay attention. And keep checking in. There is such a thing as boundaries. There is such a thing as consent. So just check in. It's like, hey, listen, is it okay if I grab your hand? Is it okay if I pay for you? Is it okay if I kiss you? Like, don't be afraid to ask. I think, these days dating, it's a bit more complex. So just ask, just ask and see where she is, and don't put any pressure on her. Just be like, hey, listen, again, I like you. I'd love to kiss you. If that's not where you're, that's absolutely okay. So if you give her space, that's how you make her open up to you. And quite honestly, in most cases, you can win a woman over. If you're not pushy, if you're a good man, if you're consistent, if you're giving her space to kind of like join you where you are, like, unless there's some massive like disconnect, she will eventually warm up to you. But if you're pushing her, to go faster than she wants to, if you're focused on wanting to take, then this will not work. So like focus on building genuine connection with another human being.
Shocking, right? and yet, I mean, look, guys, the guys who are listening, she just gave you the playbook. And it wasn't that long. It wasn't like 400 pages worth of complex things you had to figure out.
And also, it doesn't sound like we're so mysterious now, right? We're just a human being that wants to be seen and appreciated.
Imagine that.
Like, guys, women are not scary. Trust me. Yes, I always say this, by the way. There are really mean women. There are bad men and there are bad women. And you will occasionally, come across a woman who is really mean, who is bitchy, who has a lot of healing to do. This will happen. But just like, I'm trying to like tell women, please don't think that all men are bad just because you came across a few players. Same with women. Not all women are bad just because you came across a few gold diggers or, women who manipulate or who cause a lot of drama. You will come across them, period. But it doesn't mean that all women are like this. So approach women from the perspective that women are good human beings.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, speaking of the YouTube comments, I get a fair amount of comments from men who are so jaded and angry at women because of those particular women that you're talking about. And I'll get comments like, "Oh, women are like this and this, they're always like that, and they always do this." And a lot of times I will just ignore them because I understand where they're at. But sometimes I'll comment back and I'll simply say, that's not been my experience. In 50 years on this planet, that has not been my experience. So
You know how,
obviously there is another
yeah.
experience you could be having.
I also usually ignore these comments, but sometimes I will respond. And my response is usually like this. I'm sorry this has been like, I'm sorry this has happened to you. It must be really sad in your reality
Yeah.
because it's your reality. Like you said, you have known women who are good people. I'm not going to say about myself, but I can tell you, I know women who are really good. So no, not all women are bad. And we have, this is just how the human mind works. We see what we want to see. This is like a deeper psychological concept. We're not going to get into this, but just trust me or go and Google this. You see what you want to see. And so if you're convinced that women are bad and they use men, literally this is all that you will be seeing. And yes, to rewire our mind and our beliefs, it takes time, it takes work. But for anyone listening, for both men and women, if you find yourself thinking that the other gender is bad, there are no good men or good women left, then really work on your mindset because you won't be able to find a good person unless you change what's in your head first. It's essential.
Absolutely. Okay, well, darn man, we are so
Ah.
at the end of the show, and we really haven't even talked about. I don't even know. All right, I'm gonna ask you this. Do the best you can with it. When we talked in the pre-interview, you were mentioning how women can use the four power centers framework, and I really loved what you were saying, and I really wanted to talk about it in the show. But like as fast as we went on the
Okay.
topics we
Okay.
covered, like maybe in a nutshell, like talk about this and kind of if you could relate it to what we've been talking about today, that would be great.
I'm like, okay, let's give myself 30-second go. Okay. So this is true for everyone, by the way, men and women, but I have a book that's specifically for women when I go in depth into this. We have what I call four power centers. And these are four places in your body that have access to unique wisdom and knowledge about you. This is very similar to when we do the parts work. So you connect to different parts of you, maybe your inner child, and through that, you actually get to access certain information. So we've used it in spirituality, we've used this in psychology as well. Like this concept is not something new, it's been proven in many different forms. What I have personally realized is that there's a lot of systems that kind of compete. No, I am the right system. No, this is the right system. Instead, if we combine them, we realize that each of them brings something to the conversation. And so I created a system of working with your four power centers, which are four centers of wisdom and intuition. And these centers are your head, your heart, your gut, and your pussy or your cock. So what it basically means is that, for anyone listening, you may already be familiar with the idea that you just close your eyes and you ask questions within yourself and you're trying to connect to God, consciousness, your higher self, your heart, like, this wisdom inside. What we don't realize is that very often we are actually connecting to one of the centers. So it's not the ultimate truth. It's not the pure consciousness. It's not necessarily your highest self. It's one of the four power centers that in the time of your life basically has taken over and is leading your life without you realizing it. And what's really important to understand is that each of these centers has its own agenda. So it's a little bit like having a team of four people and they all have each department, so we know what it's like in businesses, right? The marketing manager always wants more budget for promos. The chief finance officer always wants to give less money. So you can see that their interests are opposite. And the only way a company can succeed if they find a way that works for all of them. It's the same here. Your four power centers will each want something else. And you have to now close your eyes and speak to all of them to find perfect alignment. So very quickly, your head wants all these big goals, wants everything to be logical, set the goals, move towards them. That's the head. And we're all very familiar with this. It's a very Western way of living. Your heart wants love and connection. But the heart is also very naive, and it thinks that love conquers all, and which we know it's not exactly the way it works. And the heart doesn't see the evil, doesn't see the bad. So it's the heart that, for example, makes us stay in abusive relationships when we say, oh, but he has such a great heart, or oh, but she's so loving. And we ignore the fact that it's actually abusive. Then we have the gut, and it's about safety and security, so important. But we all know that this keeps us away from growing, because growth is scary. It's not comfortable. And then the pussy or the cock, so the sex center, this is about pleasure, not just sexual. And again, it's really important. But we also know the shadow of, being taken over by cravings and pleasure. That's when we binge on food, when we get addicted to sex, also not healthy. And so a beautiful way for both men and women, but I would say especially women, I think we need it more, to really know if I should be dating this guy, or maybe it's time to break up or get a divorce. Should I be having sex? Is actually take a few moments first, connect to the centers, check how they feel about it, potentially negotiate with them, and find the place inside of you that feels like, fuck, yes, we can do this. Because if you're not in that place, you're essentially abusing yourself. You're doing something against yourself. You're breaking your own boundaries. Okay, how did we do on time?
That was amazing. You did that in like 4 minutes, I think.
That's great. I was going for 30 seconds. Damn it.
No, that was wonderful. We could literally do an entire show just on that. But I love the fact that you at least got to introduce it a little bit. You got to kind of maybe pique people's interest. I know this is a big part of the work that you do, which of course leads me into you telling everybody how they can find out more about you and where they could potentially work with you.
So I'll just start quickly. Then the system I just described in 4 minutes. So I have a book dedicated to this. It's called No More Faking It. So if you are curious about the system more, I highly recommend the book. There's also a quiz that will help you understand which center right now is guiding your whole life, like which center took over. Very, very useful model. The book is for women, but I have a lot of men read it as well, because it will help you understand women better, but also men can use the whole system. But if you want to learn more, if you want to work together, it's Magday Kay across all the platforms. So you can find my website, magdaykay.com, my YouTube channel. My Instagram is Magday Kay Official. And basically I tell people, look, just go online, Google Magday Kay. The only other Magday Kay you're going to find is a DJ. I am not a DJ, meaning anything that's not related to music, it's going to be me.
Awesome. And of course, the link to your website will be in the show notes, so it's easy for people to find. Okay, I got one last question that I ask everybody that comes on the show, and that is, what is your best sexual talent?
I think touch. Yeah, I'd say touch. I'm really good at touching.
Mm-hmm. I would say that you answered that so quickly that has to be the right answer. Like you didn't even really have to think about it. It was just like touch. Got it. I'm really good at touch.
I remember this one. I actually really remember this moment. I was with my friend when I used to live in a tantric community, and I think I was just kind of playing with his arm, and he actually said, Magda, you have great touch. You should be doing this professionally. And in a way, I was already doing it professionally in my one-on-one in-person sessions. Then I went into offering massage. And I will say, yes, I love touching. That's one of my love languages. And I think because I've really explored the whole variety of different touches, and I'm training how to touch. I honestly think I'm really good at this. I won't say it's my only talent, but
Well, the question wasn't, is it your only talent? It was, what is your best sexual talent? So I absolutely can guarantee there are a bunch more talents there than just the touch. But thank you for sharing that one. All right, everybody, that's all the time that I have for this episode, and I will see you next week. I hope you liked this episode of the Love Lab podcast. If you enjoyed this show, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends. And for more free exclusive content, join me in the Passion Vault at kevinandceline.com/vault. That's kevinandceline.com/vault. Thanks for listening, and remember, as Celine used to say, you're amazing.